Hi, good morning, everyone. Very happy to be here and be presenting to the STEP students body who have invited me to share this session with Architecture with Architects, which usually happens in locations. But this is a Corona version, I guess, of the same, and I'm very happy to share my own residence, come workplace with you all. Thank you for the lovely poster and. I must also thank you because I also got a chance to relook at my own space with a new lens. So with every presentation, there is a sort of an observer, neutral observer that comes into play, and that also helped me to declutter my own space. So thank you for the opportunity. Thank you to Abhinav Jayanti, who's been supporting and working with me single-handedly during this time. So, some of the driving questions for us in the practice I think, have been about how inclusive can the spaces be, more than the materialistic or stylistic aspects. How, I think, at the heart of it is how can whatever we design or create or organize, how can that allow people to meet more than they are intended to, more than it's deliberately required? How can we increase chance encounters within the organization and also of the building and the outside world? And therefore, the idea of architecture being a vessel of energy exchange between humans is an aspect that continues to fascinate us. So this quote by Khalil Gibran, "Let your home be a mast and not an anchor," pretty much expresses the spirit of what this home aspires to be. And I feel a lot of deep gratitude, to have had this opportunity to design a home, which the life presented to me, which is almost like a dream space, and where really one's spirit has not felt anchored or held, but it's been an amazing space of exploration where it's a space which is open to family, friends, extended family, guests, and where I've met actually the most amazing people. So, in that sense, it's really worked as a must. So this is the East Facing Home, a creative lab for living and working. I thought right in the beginning I'd like to share some ideas which have run through this project. So I've just kind of organized them pretty much first time, also consciously doing it. So some of the overriding ideas which I think runs across a lot of the work, and especially in this project, is something which I call Medan likeness, and this is it's a term coined by me because see, Medans are, as public spaces, Medans are places which are just neutral. I mean, a lot of Medans have opened over the lake beds. It's a neutral ground waiting for things to happen. So how can the spaces that we make evoke that quality, that kind of neutrality, which is not imposing but open? Yeah. So it includes or it invites things to happen on their own, right? So how the spaces we make can imbibe the neutrality. Hyper adaptability is something that we are very how do you say, that's personally it's a thing that I'm very fond of. And this has also been integrated very dominantly in this project, which I'll explain to you. At the form level, play of contrast, dual qualities, allowing playfulness, which is why I choose to call it a creative lab. So further breaking it down at the three levels, at the organizational level, the ideas that have crafted this building is a dominant inclusion of the eastern sun. So it's actually an east-west oriented space, yeah, and there is very little connection to the north and south. Uh, Movement is the main animator of the space, and its expression of rising upwards is expressed. It's, of course, the organizationally a dynamic and adaptable space. Each and every space to different degrees offer themselves different degrees of adaptability. There are multiple entrances which invite, varying uses over time, which means you can subdivide the space and open it up for different uses and different users at the same time. And there's therefore a constant play of public and private, public, semi-public, semi-private, and private. Maximization of utility, it being a small site, it's a 30 feet by 42 feet site in depth. So there was not a single space, inch to be wasted. At the form level, the ideas that have operated is how does one work with transparency on one hand and opaqueness on the other. As you can see, the picture expresses that. A hovering volume over the street. So, the living plane, which is at the upper level, distinctly crafts itself as hovering. And then there is also another hovering that happens over the hovering, which is by this metal sheet, as you can see from the side. Open and inviting facade, which is, of course, very, very clear and very sort of, evident. With a recessed, in one way, it's recesses, and there is also the screen-like presence. So there isn't any solid thing which is blocking the pavilion side. Overall treatment of lightness and openness, even though there is solid parts, but I think dominant spirit is of openness and lightness. At the construction level, this is a composite structure, which is part masonry and part column and beam. And so there is a play which it aspires to have of permanent versus temporary. So permanent being masonry and concrete, and temporary is the use of metal, cement board, sheets. The facade is a modulating in nature, like the front facade by the use of louvers. And then, of course, the finished versus unfinished in terms of interior surfaces is also at play. Now, coming to the neighborhood, this is right opposite the site, there is a little community of vendors, which is actually a disputed property. So the owner has let it out to a vendor community. So I really call it a neighborhood of mixed economies. It's a middle class or low middle class, presence of low middle class kind of neighborhood, which actually makes it also a very interesting site in many ways in the urban context. So this is these drawings, beautiful drawings were done by two interns, Komal and Vikas from CEPT, who were here last year. And as the picture shows, there is also this aspiration to engage with the children of the neighborhood, which are their gate is right opposite ours, over some events, So this is a little Ganesha, which was made with these children, and they were very, the gates were open, so we use the front yard, and a lot of these children are Muslim children, and it was just interesting to see how there are absolutely no boundaries when interacting with children. So you will also see me constantly talking about the use and imagination of spaces along with architecture, because that forms an integral part of our work. The other thing that I think which consciously dominated the crafting of this building was how ungated and open the facade could feel in a neighborhood which is gated. As you can see, the building on the left and right with their, the obsession with grills and more grills, and security concerns dominate. Whereas this in this building, we chose actually not to have any grill in the front, because my view is that the thief never comes from the front. But at the upper levels, we do have grills where there are possible places to hide. So essentially, at the form level, it's a pavilion and a box, a duality. And the same duality is expressed across all levels, as you can see. There's a basement, which we have, which is, of course, the largest space where you can see these two columns. And then there is this, at the ground level plane, it is completely open, and the box is towards the left side. The same thing continues at the first floor level, and at the second floor level, it reverses. The pavilion stands out in the terrace, so the box becomes a void there. And so as the model shows, the sheet roof, which is actually the secondary layer of the pavilion, which actually comes from the top, takes a bend, and rises and falls in the living room space. This has been removed to show the pavilion-like nature of the model, and then just the columns continue down. So this left side picture shows how the building was originally present. At the ground floor level, there was an open volume right from the beginning to the end of the site, you could see. And later on, subsequently, this open space got built and it's present day office where this is a design office where we work out from. Yeah, so this is this section explains the same thing. Yeah, so bottom two floors are for exploration, and the upper floors are container for the family, and there is a dominant skyward connect. Having said that, I think the great shuffling of spaces happens because I have the privilege of working, privilege and both a constraint of working. I've been a single parent, and managing family, and just multitasking. Earlier, my parents were here; both of them were here, and they passed on. So, this really allows me to attend to everything very efficiently. Yeah, so these are the plans, and I want to highlight one thing to you. So as you can see, it's very, very simple plan. Yeah, perhaps the simplest of all my projects. So this ground floor is completely open, and only the box. The box is also kind of softened with the. So the site was not a perfect rectangle, and what happened was that kind of oblique allowed for the staircase to fit in, and also gave rise to this angular wall, which kind of then at the upper level invites the user in. And what I want to point out here is also that the setbacks have been used cleverly in the sense of extensions with metals. The top left corner was allowed by the bylaws to get occupied, so we've put in toilets there and staircases and this little balconies. And even the living room projects out into the setback space, which allows for using a temporary material. So I said, okay, since I'm using the temporary material, a little bit fudging with the bylaws is okay. And as you see, the house totally orients to the east. There is no view to the side at all. And at the back, yeah, there are some openings through the kitchen. So the living and kitchen bay is one, and then there are two rooms here with a toilet in between. And then the third room is accessed through the staircase, and then a whole lot of terrace to be used. At the same time, there's an independent access from the side to the upper floor, which is where when I built this house, I actually had an accident. I had a fall and I broke my hip bone. And so I just felt that I had to contain my movement. So I began by putting the office here, which wasn't the original plan, so that I could just live between first floor and second floor and not need to go down and spread out myself. So the initial office was in the upper floor. So as you can see, I mean, this is actually the picture shows when the office has moved down, but further I'll show you how it was earlier. The compound wall becomes a very important element in most of our designs, where, just by raising the wall and including the landing, a lot of, like below this wall, there is UPS and there are a lot of service areas at the same time. So how one can use each and every element effectively and tuck in things without wasting space. And, so opaque and openness again. And also finding to what degree can one engage with the kids opposite, because once the gates are open, they just want to run in, and you want to engage, but at the same time, how do you draw balance? So sometimes we do engage them with these kind of activities. And so I want to show you this thing, how the space changed. Earlier, it was the street came in, and we have had use these spaces for exhibitions and many different activities. And then from there on, you could go down and access the basement through a courtyard. And subsequently, the space has got enclosed and become the present office where we are sitting right now. The office space also expanded. Yeah, so this is the earlier 2008 when we built the house. We had also run a shared co-working space called Protospace with another artist called Prayas Abhinav, who came up with this idea. So 2 floors, ground floor and basement, was functioning as Protospace. And of course, this kind of a play space. And sometimes we had this exhibition. This was a very interesting exhibition we had on imagining a temporary space for Bangalore, and designed as a temporary exhibition. Like it's a pop-up exhibition, and it's got this playful pivoting panels where scale to the the height of a child, so they can also another way of making the places inclusive. So how can children be part of these kind of exhibition spaces? So as you can see in these two images, how the space has changed from being open to enclosed, but somewhere the character of being the pavilion is retained by the way this enclosure is built. So on top is, the you can see the railing going towards the basement courtyard, and here you see the present design studio. I also want to point out this, that since I'm always aware of the fact that life is changing, and in case one has to shift the office out, it should be possible. So this space was kind of made in certain way, in a way that tomorrow it can become a two-bedroom house. So two toilets, two rooms, living and kitchen. The counter is already kind of integrated at the back. Yeah. So that is pretty much possible for the whole house, that it can be either a house or entirely either an office, without the character dictating it to be in a certain way. Yeah, so there is that openness which is available. I also want to share with you that this particular walling system was made with lightweight material. It's a dry enclosure system, which means no masonry or wet cement work was used, and it was popped up very, very quickly. Yeah, this was also a demonstration and an early sort of experiment for me to engage with the fact that if we were to build houses, which is very much possible in Bangalore, and how could one do that using just metal, bison board, the cement boards, and wood in this case. Again, within the meeting room, also we have light movable partitions, which this partition has shifted places 3 to 4 times, made of recycled pine wood. And the side two doors, as you see, swivel open. So you still maintain the continuity of the volume by opening that. Beyond this is a private guest space, and people can use it for sleeping. But this is part of the office. So there is the constant, because the fact that the work is located in the home, there is this constant play between formal and informal, and one wonders, the office spills onto the home and home spills onto the office. The boundaries are not very strict. Yeah, that's Viral. Viral is your senior. You can see her in this picture. And that's the first picture is from the terrace office, where the kids, they love to use the terrace, just outdoor, just sit on the ground. So also spaces, how they encourage different body language, of from formal to informal, and how does it affect the state of mind is also one of the things that we are interested in. And so as we moved on, as the office was built, we had to add certain elements of formality as a beginning. So this wall was added. It's a ferro cement wall towards the neighbor, because right behind it are these, these pipes, these plumbing pipes, and those Y junctions, and those things are exposed. We also added a stairway to the basement from the front. So there could be a front access, direct access to the basement. Yeah. And that's how the office, with brown being plywood and gray being cement board, forming the facade of the new office. And yeah, just to show you a little bit of detail, I think throughout the whole house, there are no hinged openings. There are only pivoted openings, which means when you open these panels, they have a more wall-like nature. So they separate from the place they are fixed. Yeah, so there's a character. So these are almost act like modulating vertical louvers, which are these plain plywood sheets. And even the doors are pivoted doors. Coming to the basement, this is again showing the courtyard at the back, courtyard in the front. So you get both eastern and western light. The staircase is from the back side, which, sometimes people from the office went down and had lunch there. And then there was other offices which also occupied the basement. Yeah, so basement actually constantly keeps changing use, from being rented to being used by us for our extended work and engagements to all kinds of things. Moving upwards, the clear decision to have home upstairs and having this sort of lifted up works really well, with the perforated sheet railing, which provides the right kind of privacy and yet openness. And again, these spaces like landing or even the balcony keeps getting used as a canvas for different kind of engagements with with the street kids, or even the interns who come, rangoli when there is a festival, then expression of that. Okay, this is Abhinav's favorite slide, I think, because he wanted me to tell you about this construction. Basically, it's a very thin sort of a staircase. As you can see, it's just 2 inches which has been casted with an angular flat here. Probably I should have just put in a sketch. Yeah, so it's the expression of lightness. So the second part, when you go up, you kind of look back into the down space, and that's sort of very interesting, topped by just a 10 granite tile. So coming into the into the main living space, again, as you can see, the kitchen is lightly separated. In fact, the kitchen is still an unfinished project. That partition needs to be worked upon, and we've just used. I've still used the these curtains that I had from like some 20 years ago, and the use of staircase actually really animates the space. What I like is to include staircases into the spaces in all my projects, where you can see people going up, coming down. So there is a life, and then they start getting used in even ways that you haven't imagined. Yeah. And so there is always this sense of drama and liveliness. Then on the right side is the metal wall of the metal corrugated sheet, galvalume sheet, which is used for industrial purposes. And it is just being used as it is. It has not been covered by any secondary material, very pure. And we often use it, for pinning up stuff. So you can see that I also wanted to point out the difference between how pictures are clicked. So this is shot professionally, and we've cleared up spaces, but the actual life looks like this. This is across time. And the mezzanine on top is lifted, and you can see paintings of my daughter when she was, I think, 7 years old. They are being displayed, and even those openings are modulated and covered depending on use. Again, looking back to the east, and one decision that I took was that I didn't want to use curtains, anywhere. Yeah. So how do then I modulate light and privacy? So the main facade towards the building, by keeping the glass on top and bottom, actually what happens, the middle zone is where you need to kind of hide yourself. So, and at the same time, these are lures. So what happens is very interesting. When people come, we see their feet. Yeah. So we know who's come. Or even we have 2 cats, when they come, they kind of wait here, and then we open the door. And light bouncing off the ceiling and the floor. And, so even with all lures closed, there is enough sense of connection to the outdoor. So here you can see it's, I think, present day picture. Yeah. And the staircase is, of course, very, very light, just L-angle and jali wood, very hard wood, which is used by truck bodies, is supported. And it's a very cheap wood. So another thing which I want to point out is that, using a material where it is needed. So different kinds of wood are used. These are Burma teak lures, which is an expensive wood because it had to be cut very thin, like almost 8 But then for this purpose, the cheapest wood was used, which is jali wood. So yeah, the morning light comes that deep in I think some days in the winter. And this is an early photograph when my parents were around. This is the passage leading to both the bedrooms. And what I want to point out here is that there is a toilet, but outside it is continuously expressed as a brown box. So it's like a box within a box. Brown box is made of all the cupboards. So the cupboards wrap around, and right at the junction is the skylight. Yeah, so the skylight lights this part of the passage. Also, the fact that I chose to make these doors full height. So by eliminating the lintel, I was able to maintain the continuity of this entire volume. So there is a enhanced volumetric play sort of everywhere. And so you can see, the full height. So coming upwards, the first picture shows the very early days when the mezzanine and was not separated. So, for example, if we are in the mezzanine, we could get the smells of the kitchen, and they were all interlinked. And these are early days. My daughter is 17 today. So this, and also the office. So the office and the study was like this. This part was open, yeah. And then going further, it's become a bedroom and a multi-purpose space. And this part of coming up to separate the sounds and the smells has got kind of enclosed, but yet it is possible to use it as a loft. Yeah, so with this kind of a train-like ladder, of course, right now this place is used as a dump for suitcases. But in my imagination, I thought, okay, this could be one more bed, and one more person could sleep there. And as you can see, this slit, which is just 1 foot 3 inches, is so useful because when I used to work here and my daughter was small, I could sit here and keep an eye on the door below, who's coming, who's going. So that was very useful. And at the same time, be part of the upper spaces. So this, I just thought, it would be interesting for me to make this diagram, and asked Abhinav to make it, is that how the shuffling has happened across the years. So the pink donates my, my own exploration other than my work, yeah. Blue donates my workspace, orange is very private space, and yellow is rented space. So in 2009, as you can see, the lower parts was proto space, which was a co-working space, and office was on top with these 2 bedrooms. But in 2013, when both my parents moved, what happened was my mother was very ill. So she occupied one entire room. My dad occupied an entire room, and literally an office was on top, and Aranya and I, we didn't have a room. So I moved in a partition here, and became this little tiny space for her to study. And we would use the living room to sleep in the night. Yeah. So it was very interesting how, the spaces have seen that multiple use, and like each and every space, I cannot feel that any space is specific in my house. And then eventually in 2015, actually my mom passed away, and we had, before that, luckily she got to see this office space below. We had just created this. And then now we have more space. We have three bedrooms, and of course the upper space is double leveled, and it gets used in so many ways. So the kind of obsession with having, like multiple doors, multiple entrances, and tomorrow I feel that if I have to invite, housemates to live in this house, and how each one can have their own private space, it would be very much possible. Or tomorrow, if I move out and if this whole building needs to be converted into an office, it should still be possible. Yeah. So that's the house, and there's always the desire to continuously engage with the street. This is the time of Diwali, where we had a slideshow, and the screen that could be visible from both the sides. The projector was kept inside the office, and that's my dad. He was still around, and we had this little slideshow and Diwali party, and it was fun. And just a little bit pointing out the fact that the kind of spaces also allow for different things to happen. There's a paper strata workshop organized by the interns in the basement, when it was unoccupied. And this was one of our new initiatives to just have joy of handwork, so that people come together and work with their hands without their phones. but create different artworks bounded by one technique. So we had diary stitching, and this is completely intern-driven program. And these are some images for last year. We had worked on a project of making Bangalore map, and that's Komal, Vikas, and Vasant. And this is inside the living room. And for the first time, I could, I'm very fond of Garba, and we managed to organize with help of Vikas and Komal, and they were the lead dancers in the Garba, and we had a neighborhood Garba in Bangalore, so it was very special. So yeah, the desire to engage and keep using these spaces which are actually very neutral, so that the sense of life can be allowed, is I think the essence of this house. And I would proudly say that, yeah, that really has worked like that. The first picture shows a very interesting workshop we did last year of making windmills and engaging with these. These are the fitters and welders of a village nearby, near Nandi Hills. So we were trying to help them to make windmills, and we had invited them over. So this happened on the terrace. And this second picture is the first day of the office inauguration, and interns are making rangoli. And yeah, the rest you know. So yeah, the presence of the house is almost like lantern-like in the night, which is pretty much in contrast. But yeah, we end up engaging with the vendor kids right opposite much more than other neighbors. So I will just quickly run you through other homes. So just to know how certain ideas have continued and some things which have changed in my work. This was a home away from home out in the nature near Nandi Hills. So here again, if you see the typology, which actually fits in very well, is the ground floor open, hovering volume, and this allowed, especially this being a sloping land, worked really well, because in places like this, what happens is there is a whole community of help that you need, the people who are doing agriculture, the workers. So keeping the ground plane absolutely like a Medan, yeah, and securing the privacy at the upper levels has been a sort of a typology, of a lot of our work. And so we got a chance to build 3 homes here, and each one east-west oriented, compact footprint, multi-leveled. That was a common thing. And expressing this aspect in 3 different ways, and yet similar. Similar kind of contemporary lines, just like the home. This was built after that. Based on their affordability, they had different sizes and needs. This fellow was the biggest one, and he had Mohan Reddy. He chose to have a swimming pool and a more elaborate gathering space, whereas others have different degrees of compaction. This is Sandeep's farmhouse, and they're very generous and lovely friends. So we also get to experience these spaces, which I feel very thankful for. And again, as you can see, staircase becomes a very dominant element in the project. So you climb up through the belly of the house, and then you again move up, and then third, also you move up and go to the terrace. And this is Bali's house, and this split the volume into 2 parts, but more or less the principles are the same. Again, the staircase in the middle, right in the middle, and very light in its treatment. This is, I think from this project onwards, what I noticed is that a little bit of earthiness started entering into my work, where I felt like, color, use of mud, actual mud or color of mud. Metal started being more rustic, more plain and not painted, unlike my own place. So I think there's been a natural shift in terms of palette that way. And also often clients want something, not as bare and as, too simple, like my home might be too simple for them. And so this was our way of including different materials and yet staying. So this was a renovation project, and the upper part is totally a house built on the extended and hovering again over in a way that the garden below is not is maintained. You don't you even if you're building more, you don't express it. You stay light, and you don't make it heavy. That's the idea. This is a house we finished last year. It's a corner house, and again, as you can see here, while some of the elements continue, like the compound wall being part of the form, the screens, perforated screens, but now they've taken a natural color, and then the dominant presence of mud. So the entire ceiling here is expressed, and suddenly this, the sense of color, but it's not a color, it's actually the material, which is the mud. So somewhere there has been a sort of a desire to embrace earthiness. Yeah, so this is through 4-bedroom house, and it was a simple family, and probably they did not expect and like it would turn out. They were quite overwhelmed and excited, to have a space like this with this kind of cascading sort of a form, and part of the street and yet private. And it's a joy to go there and see. They thoroughly use every nook and corner. So this window here, we used to call it Juliet window. So this is a window where you can step out and sit, and so it's like a window balcony. Yeah? So some of these elements, even the circular skylight is one of the elements, I think, which is there in most of our projects, which continues to animate the work. Some of the interior images. Again, the inclusion of outdoors into the indoors. And this is a house which we also finished early this year. And luckily, Shabnam Virmani, she's a filmmaker and a Sufi singer. And the drawings are unfortunately not clear. But this is again like a very different house again. So her brief was the house should not look contemporary by any way, So, and her constant engagement, I feel I really co-created this house along with her. But at the same time, not losing the essence. So as you can see, some of the principle of rising upward movement is expressed into the living space. And in this case, this is only house where the skylight is literal center of the house, which is quite, she was quite excited to discover that her house had 9 doors, and the 10th is the skylight, which is what is used in a lot of, as the human body has 9 doors, and 10th is this here on top of the head, which is the spiritual center. So in her own way, she made that connect. And yeah, it was very interesting to work on this house with a very passionately involved client. And as you can see, the surfaces inside again turn very, very unfinished, rustic. A lot of mud and grays are coming in. So moving away from, very contemporary. And I must say that I myself have discovered a lot of new ways of treating surfaces in this project, which earlier I hadn't, explored. So I'm happy about that. But before we close, I would like to actually talk to you briefly about this special project, which I got right in the beginning. And I think I was very lucky. This is One Shanti Road, it's the home of Suresh Jairam. And I would say if you are ever in Bangalore, you please visit this place, not because I've designed it, but because of the kind of home it is. It's really like an open home. So it was a very unique brief of a home which said that I just don't want to be like a regular home. I want it to be open. And I think in some ways this influenced me in making my own home. So Suresh approached me with, with a set of old grills and doors and windows, and this was completely at the upper floor level. And this house has again grown over time, but this growth has been of another dimension, because initially we just started as a 2-courtyard house, a home and a studio, and the 2 courtyards. And they automatically happened because there was a huge badam tree, as you can see in the picture here, and a grid of columns. So this was a condition of the site when we were invited to work on the project. And a grid of columns automatically, kind of put certain things in place. So the studio and the home, again, these are very small homes, and the idea is how do we kind of maximize the experience within the smallness of it. So that's how it kind of happened. These are lovely drawings made by interns over the years. And then in 2007, when I had built this, Suresh comes back, and Suresh is a person who's kind of very open, inviting. His doors are never closed. When you go to his home, there is food always present for anybody who walks in, whether you know him or not. So him being he couldn't contain the effects of his own nature, and then people started moving in, and he said, okay, let me make 2 artist residencies. And that's when we had to add more rooms over this, even though one hadn't planned it earlier. And then the challenge was how to maintain the aspect of the courtyard at the back there. So this became a hovering room over the courtyard. And then he said, I need one more room because I have no space. And then this little, den space was added on the top. And what's interesting is that just like how this picture shows, it's not an exaggeration. This is how the space is used. If you go there on a weekend and there's an activity happening, there are people all over the place. So it's really organic and labyrinthine in that way. So this is original home. And this is how the life of One Shanti Road is. And as you can see in this picture, this second courtyard started getting used when it was shaded. So always a humbling learning that, in a tropical climate, if we really want spaces to be used, we have to shade them. We have to find ways of shading them. So, this is where everybody comes and gathers. There is it's messy, it's chaotic, but it's full of life. And that's Suresh here in the picture to the right down. And, the fact that a spiral staircase is the entrance to the main house. I mean, Suresh is a amazingly open client. He just said, I want an open house and a connection to nature, and that's it. I mean, there was absolutely no interference, from his end, and it was really fun and special. Also, in terms of languages, there are different materiality and languages, as you can see. So, the original house is more earthy and oxides. And then I felt it's too ornate. And then in 2007, I purposely made it more austere and contemporary. And then 2013, we added this, 3-4 elements with. So there was this staircase, which is partly plinth and part spiral lightweight metal. And all these plinths also get used for sitting when the lectures are going on. Okay, I just have included the sketch. This on the right side, this is a sketch I had made in the Urban Design Studio, which Professor Chaya was taking. And my concept, I don't know why, I think they liked the sketch and they said, okay, now the concept is vertical streets. Yeah. But what I realized is I just done it very casually. But when I stood here on One Shanti Road, this is exactly what happened. I was reminded of that sketch. And so, but interesting thing is there are 3 staircases in this right slide, but they all happened across different time periods. And this kind of labyrinthine nature and intertwining does not happen when a designer designs in one go. At least that's what I have come to realize. And that's been a very, very interesting realization, that how something which grows and evolves with time adds its own sort of beauty. So yeah, One Shanti Road continues to be this pulsating home, and much to learn from that space. So yeah, this is the last slide. I just have put few words together in the sense of how one is always wanting to play with the dualities, simple and multiplicit, street and the sky, frugality of means, which is very important because, when we build in India, we have to use a material very sensitively and very cost effectively. At the same time, how do you put, calculated extravagance was a term, I think, first Professor Varkey had used it, where you sort of calculate where you want to show. So for example, in my house, the facade, the louvers are calculated because it was expensive, to make that kind of. But then everything else is frugal, yeah. Functional and poetic, ascending, descending, all of it is fine, but held together by geometry. Geometry is the binding thing, none of these things should be seen separate. Ultimately, it's geometry which holds it. And geometry itself is also not seen, but the sense of people coming together is what one desires for. So, yeah, that is the end of the presentation. Yeah. So this kid is a worker's or a vendor's kid. So carefree, unlike our kids, who are so overprotected. Yeah. So this is a. I will show you the house from the side here. Uh, you can see the sheet rising up. Yeah. And this is the only house which hasn't come right from the street. Yeah. So just pause me and ask your question at any point. Yeah. This slit was introduced at the height of the level of children, so when the gate is closed, they can still look inside. Yeah? This glass facade, again, there are no grills in the house, and a lot of people get very psyched that how do you kind of live, how do you get security? And I tell them the thief does not enter from the front, so it's a waste of grills. And this facade is constantly changing every year. Diwali or before Diwali, a batch of interns makes this. So this is paper screen, butter sheets, and as you can see, this is a window within a door, so you can also close it and open it. Everything, all the windows have this kind of a multi-dimension to it. What I like about friction hinge is this, that you can stop it at any level. Yeah, you can fully open it. So it's a hinge come stay, and very simple hardware. Yeah, nothing should be overstated. Like literally, sometimes for searching for these hardwares, you have to run. Yeah, so that's towards the east, and sometimes these lines cast lovely shadows, outside and inside. That scale is made by Viral Mehta. Viral is, I know she's listening, so that was a lovely gift to the office, because scale is always a challenge nowadays, because all the students work in computer and you're zooming in and out of your designs, the scale goes for a toss. So again, this comes from the studio, that you must have a scale, and visually when you look, you should be able to tell what the dimension is without using the tape. Yeah. All right. So like I said, this whole space is designed to overnight connect into a 2-bedroom house. Yeah. So this becomes the living room, and this would become the kitchenette. I'm taking you to the back door. This is the guest space here. We had a musical evening once long ago, and there's a remains of that on the wall. Again, I was telling you, this partition, it keeps moving. Very lightweight, made of recycled pine wood and polycarbonate sheet. So, and the enclosure is mostly maximum glass and very less opaqueness, as you can see. So still very pavilion like, because this is not a large space. Yeah. Want to open that? And I'm always sometimes
my clients say that your bathrooms are always so tiny, and I used to know earlier, this is the common bathroom, and yellow oxide, again, the idea is to have very muted surfaces, not too many joints. So this side is rough stone, granite, and this side is yellow cement oxide, yeah. So again, not seeing too many joints and too much fussiness, yeah. And now we're going towards the basement. So now I do not make small bathrooms because I really feel they are such sublime spaces. But earlier I was really, my clients would complain, why are your bathrooms so small? Because I always wanted to give more space to the outside. And so I want to show you this extension that we had to make earlier, this extension, just enough to have the headroom to go down. So extension so that the space on top became extra, and then going down. Cement staircase, again, cement cast on T-angle frame and supported by a channel section here, as you can see, and each thread is held by this sort of a V connector. So this basement, I must tell you that it's only done as size stone masonry, which means we didn't do any RCC foundation. And I took a chance because it does leak sometimes when there's excessive rain, but as you can see, there is a groove all around the basement. Yeah, and that takes care to some extent. And now I also had a well dug in. So in case there is excessive rain, there is an arrangement for water being pumped out. But doing an RCC basement would be more secure, but it was outside my budget, so I took the chance to just, and at the same time, it's lovely to see this size stone granite masonry wall. So
Hello, ma'am.
that's the eastern entrance of the basement. Again, basement can be subdivided and used by two people from the back and from the front.
Hello, ma'am.
So coming up from the basement here, this is my cat's favorite place. Sometimes they pees there in that pot. All right. Okay, going up now. Anything, Abhinav, here? So again, as you can see, the two staircases, the one going on top is transparent. I mean, it's interesting to see people's feet, people climbing up. All right. So, perforated sheet is a very favorite material of mine. It's also an inexpensive way to make surfaces. Now at this junction you have to make a decision whether you want to go up to the second floor or you want to go to the first floor. So my urban design friend Himadri Das calls it that urban node. Yeah. So coming up. Yeah. This
Ma'am,
balcony
is
is
it
really
audible to you, whatever we are speaking?
to be very very useful because sometimes there are so many people, their shoes and everything can lie here. It's also a place where the cat's potty tray is kept there right in the corner. And when you have pets, they want to be indoor outdoor constantly, so these cats can go out through the lures. Yeah. So this is the lured door, and it's all the lures are connected by a vertical element. Yeah, and there's a simple lock there. Okay. Yeah. Again, top and bottom open, and it's a living room, two sitting spaces in case two groups are interacting. This is I also want to tell you this door that you see on after the entrance door is an additional door to one of the bedrooms. And that, open that, Abhinav, this door. Yeah. So what happens is this completely slides out and it becomes, so that bedroom becomes an extension of the living room as well. Yeah. So when we have gatherings, we just have this inside outside flow because it's a small house. So how one can, spaces don't become too exclusive. So it's a bedroom, but at the same time, it can become a sitting room. Yeah, you want to open that door? That's the simple plywood melamine finished wardrobes. The full height doors, they're about 9 feet high. And the height here is 9.5 feet, though it looks much taller. It's only 9.5 feet. And as you can see, that's the gap from the mezzanine where one can look down. That's my daughter and her dad sitting together. There, from the other side. Yeah. And that's the bedroom beyond. The toilet also is concealed. So when you see from outside, it's a complete box. Yeah? And the skylight sort of intersects at the junction of the both. In this case, I took the toilet. Can you see there's a step up? The reason is that at the lower level, the slab is very less. So I chose not to have a sunken slab, to have a clean ceiling. So there's a step up to the toilet. Again, the toilets have a lot of large doors and people complain because they said, okay, what about privacy and all? And we said you can always add some artwork or newspapers and things like that, but let there be enough light in the toilets. Again, a lot of grays and woods. This side is polished granite, which actually, in hindsight, I shouldn't have used. The granite looks really beautiful only when it's rough. And it has this granular quality, which is here. And little accents. This 1 inch and 1 inch tiles. Yeah. And here is again that. Yeah, you can ask questions. So what I'll do is I'll just finish the living room and I'll take up the questions. So this is the the kitchen. This is this unfinished counter partition. It's going to take some new life at some point. And that's the living room looking towards the east. So what's interesting is like when you're here behind the curtain, you have this sort of screening effect and you can, without being visible, you can see who's coming and going, who's playing the fool in the party. So maybe I'll just take your questions. Can somebody read them out because, it would be useful. Is it possible for someone to read out the questions?
Yeah. So about the walkthrough, one of the questions Jay has asked is, how do you design openings? Like, how do you approach the opening part, and are there any thumb rules for that from your side?
Yeah. So openings are like the most important, parts of a design, I think. And so the openings, like these, for example, these I forgot to mention, all these doors which are here, you can see all these 4 doors pivot out, so they can all open. Yeah, pretty much like our studio doors in Sept. So the idea of opening should not fixate the space. That's what I would say. It should address functionality, issues of privacy, and at the same time, it should ultimately be very simple. Yeah. In this case, I have used different kind of openings, but most of them, as you see, are made of part opaque, part glass. Yeah. What I don't like is to have openings like, you have openings and then you have security grill and then you have curtains, 2 layers of curtains. I just feel it becomes an overkill personally. But then I have tried to do that, resolve that for my clients in ways where the lightness can still remain. Yeah. Now, one of the main factors for openings would be climate. So openings need to be shaded depending on how sharp your sun is, because then only.
Ma'am, I guess we have lost your video. Yeah, now it's visible. Yeah.
So as you can see now, this opening, what I'm showing you now, if you see, the door is defined, but the glass is got a grill here. But again, what I've done is I've done the grill in a way that it's least obstructive. So part of the grill is inside, and at the upper side, 2 bars are outside. So I don't know if you can see that, like the grill kind of staggers, So the lines don't dominate. Yeah. I don't know how else to explain that. Like even here, the grill is put outside. As much as possible, I like to put the grill outside and not inside, because I think it ends up being very harsh on the inside. But then again, I make exceptions. So it's a lot of it is decided intuitively, but there's a great aspect of functionality to all design of all openings.
Yes, ma'am.
Does that answer your question?
Yes, yes.
To some extent, yeah, because one can lecture on it.
The next question is, so there was, when you were showing the front facade of the building, when you were coming in, there were certain circular openings at the plinth level. What were those?
Oh, okay. Yeah, yeah. Those were, I had called, I had to do a core cutting, core cutting when they actually
Yeah,
cut
yeah.
through concrete. Yeah. So I had called those guys and I just wanted to experiment and add little more ventilation to the basement. So I asked them to make those holes there, and that's about it. Nothing more. I mean, and it was interesting to get the scoops of concrete out, which now we use, as, I mean, they're very interesting. I don't know if you've seen, the stones look fossilized into the concrete in that. Yeah.
Okay. And uh, one of the staircases to the basement, the one you had mentioned about being casted in concrete, were those precast panels supported on the C channel, or were they casted on site somehow?
So that the one in the basement, actually all the staircases here are different. So I send the interns to do a measure drawing. The one in the basement is a T angle frame, 35 by 35 by 5. It has a mesh placed in between, and the whole thing is casted like a precast. You're right. So it's a precasted thread, which is then again welded onto an I section and supported by 2 angular flats, which support the front ends of the staircase. At the back, the stringer holds it in the center, and at the front there are two thin, I think 12 rods holding the front. And all the railings across my projects, I like to use flats in the direction. Again, the railings are very tightly designed in the direction of the shake. So you use a simple 40 flat, and that's what has been used in the basement.
Okay. One question about this space right here by Sunaina is that doesn't the sheet of the roof make a lot of noise when it rains?
Good question. Yeah. So yeah, see, now maybe we can walk a bit. Now see, if you see this profile of the sheet here, I will. This side is south. Okay, so what happens is what I've done is an experiment I did. This is south, and you wouldn't ever do this. On the south, what happens when the south sun comes? It meets the sheet in an oblique way. So it does not heat up the sheet that much as against if the sheet was, so right now the sheet is like this, but if the sheet was like this, it would heat up because the sun would hit directly. Now the sun hits in an oblique way and then the sheet goes down. And if you see towards the south, there is a lot of overhang, which is about 4 feet. So it's just a chance I took to open up this thing towards the south because we are in Bangalore. But please, this detail will not work in Delhi or in Ahmedabad. Yeah. So this overhang sufficiently shades the entire south glass. And at the same time, there is a gap, ventilated air gap all along, without which you would get fried. Yeah. All along, there's a ventilated air gap of 2 inches all along, as you can see very clearly in this view.
But what about when it rains? Won't it make a lot of noise? That is
Yeah.
what was asked.
Yeah. It's heavy metal music. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. But we don't mind that, we love the elements. But yeah, so this is, these are the experiments architect does upon themselves. Yeah. I mean, you can't pull this off easily with the client. See, let's say, what I could also have used puffed panel sheet, which is an insulated sheet roof. There are 2 months of the year, April and May, which get very tricky. So I had to, in emergency, install an AC, as you can see, but it's only used for those 2 months. But if you were to do this with puffed panels, you can still do it. But it's this crimping, which is the curved part, no? That's not possible to do with puffed panels. So then there wouldn't be that continuity of the material. Yeah. So
And it's a GI sheet?
it's a galvalume sheet, galvanized aluminum coated. So inside it's MS, but it's coated with aluminum. So it's not painted. It's just the regular aluminum sheet. What is used in industrial?
The next question is by Sanjana, and she's asking, why have we used pivots instead of hinges for the openings?
Yeah. Okay. So I will explain that to you. See here, this is hinge door. Yeah. This is a hinge. So what happens is when you're looking from inside, there is never a separation. Yeah. Can you see this? You see a hinge and a hinge and a. But whereas in the pivot, you see a clean line. As you can see in the studio doors, in Sept, they stand like walls, and that's somewhere I feel that aids the character of the space better. That clear gap. This is a pivoted door. It's much neater and cleaner. But that's. But you have to be careful in using pivoted doors, especially when you have to address sealed conditions of climate, when there's a lot of rainfall and there are insects, if you're building in a forest, because there's always a gap left, with a pivoted door at the base. But wherever I can use it, I prefer to use pivoted. That answer?
Yeah, I think so. We have one question earlier by Sunayana. So she had asked, what could you explain how the mud roof was cast in the, I think if I'm pronouncing this wrong, please.
Mule Mane.
Mule Mane.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Mule means corner, Mane means house. So corner house. Yeah, it is actually not mud. It's not made in mud. It's only surface treatment of mud. So instead of doing the regular plaster, we've done mud plaster. That's about it. At the edge, we have used a steel channel section to give it the just the finish of the lightness. But if I took you to the terrace of that house, maybe I can share that more in detail at another point. Or the entire roof is made of beams, which is inverted on the terrace. So it was deliberately chosen to have this sort of clean ceiling. In fact, here I work a lot with inverted beams. I haven't spoken much. For example, this is an inverted beam. Yeah. And so is this. This entire thing is an inverted beam. And that becomes the seat. And so is it below in the lower staircase. That entire thing is an inverted beam. what it does, it allows me to have a clean ceiling below. Instead of putting the beam down, it's turned upwards.
Ma'am, is that black colored flooring an IPS flooring in the bedroom space?
Yes, yes, yes.
So does it
Yes.
have expansion joints?
No, this one doesn't. It's a small area. The upper part is just 2.4 meters by 2.4 meters. Yeah. And here it's about 4 meters. Yeah. No, not 4, 4.5. Yeah. Not have, but yes, you should ideally have. There are some minor cracks actually, but we don't mind them.
Yeah.
So cost effective way of doing it. So as you can see, there are remnants of the old office. The table is still there. Those 2 tables which we haven't removed. And when our guests come, it's very useful for them to put out their luggage and open up their bags.
Ma'am, one question I had was like you're using a lot of uh, not temporary but dry construction techniques. So
Yes.
doesn't that like over time face any issues due to expansion contraction of metals and two different materials combining at one place and reacting differently to climate?
Yeah. So actually, the dry work, more or less, the materials are similar. So you would use, say, boards and metal, right? And
Yeah.
wood. So when you put wood with masonry is when you have to worry a lot more, because, what it would do is it would add cracks to the masonry. So for example, if I have to make a wooden jam, I'll just show you here. Okay, now this is an aluminum door. So aluminum has no expansion, but wait, if I was to make this with wood, I would have to address it by giving a groove in the plaster for wood. So with the dry materials, they are more compatible in terms of temperature. So also, I think your question would come more into play into very extreme climates. And I'm sure there is engineering available where the nuts and bolts are allowed to expand, but not in a climate like this.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm coming down from this side staircase where the earlier office intern came from. I see this, especially in Bangalore, a lot of overbuilding, and I really wonder why, because I don't see that kind of greed of overbuilding in other cities. So yeah, that's a pity.
I was intrigued by the staircases that you have used. Like usually all through your projects, I saw super light staircases, which are like an installation in the project. But what are your views on an opposite staircase, which is very heavy, robust, and massy? Like I haven't seen that throughout your projects. The project. So
No, it's not like that. It's when it's in the space. So it's like, okay, so if I want to use the underneath of the staircase and I want to make storage there, then it's massive. But if I want it around the staircase, yeah, then I'll make it very light. So I think some of the examples that you've seen are those, but it's not like I have one preference. If you see in Shabnam's house, the staircase is heavy.
all right.
It's based on functionality versus what's the space around. But when you make a light staircase and through from underneath, you have to make sure that you don't like you make the spaces around accordingly. So just
Yeah.
need.
Yeah.
I mean, I love the staircases of the fort, especially those narrow staircases which went up to the terrace. Where you feel squeezed. And you come up to the terrace. I love that staircase as very much as well. So it's not like I have a preference for one or the other, but idea to push it to minimum light, maximum lightness is just a sense of exaggeration that it's staircase, it's carrying you, but it's light, But that's done where there is drama to be seen. It should be posted in a place that you sees it, You wouldn't do that in a place where you're enclosing it and in a box. So
And one thing I noticed that you had your toilet in the center of the house. Like usually the service blocks are at some corner so that you can easily carry out the services to the drainage line. So in this case, like,
it's not center of the house. It is centered, but it is still abutting an edge.
okay, okay. So through that edge, you take that services.
Because if you put it in the center, you would have to depend on mechanical ventilation, which I don't think is a great idea for Indian conditions. So,
Yeah.
but it's placed in a way to maximum use of space. I mean, like I said, the site was very small and placing there where so that you don't waste area in circulation.
Yeah.
Minimize circulation, maximize use, so that way.
Yeah.
I want to show the plan.
Yeah, we can just go to the plan then.
Yeah. You can see the slide, yeah. So as you see,
Yeah.
as you can see in this diagram, there is the stake, it's still at the edge. And the extension is only a metal sheet. So pipes are still going from here. Can you see my cursor?
Yeah, yeah, no.
Pipes are going here and pipes are going in this corner. Now, since they are not visible to anybody, I haven't bothered to cover them with any duct-like material. At other places where they're visible, I obsessively, work it out in a way that they aren't visible or they become part of the architecture. So as you can see, there are many, there was no space to be wasted. It's a 2-bedroom house with a balcony, leaving all the setbacks. So that's why I think also, by the way, I have followed Vastu, like tomorrow if I have to sell, though I don't believe in it, but if I have to sell the house, it should be possible. So master bedroom in the southwest, kitchen in the northwest, east facing entrance. So that way also it works.
Ma'am, I had a question. So when you were showing one of the other projects which you had done, a farmhouse, I think, the front facade had a huge cantilever. So was that actually a cantilever or was it just appearing to be?
How can it just appear? I mean, I didn't do any Photoshop work.
No, like there are certain illusions, like you can have a column, or there are certain ways.
Yeah, this one, right? This is a cantilever. This is an actual cantilever.
Okay.
It may look a little exaggerated because it's right angle, but it's about, I think it's about 12 to 15 feet or more. I don't remember it. So you have to have a good structural engineer to, meet your dreams. So in this, for making this kind of a cantilever, you had to do a lot of back anchoring. So for example, there are beams. Can you see the ceiling below? Actually, it has beams which has been covered by the ceiling, which run backwards. There are 4 beams here, 1, 2, 3, 4, and they run backwards and they do back anchoring into the rock. So because this was a rocky landscape. And likewise, there are beams on top of the terrace also. I showed you more drawings. Even here, can you see there's an upturned beam running backwards? So from here to here, there's a cantilever of about 10 feet. It's supported on very, very thin steel columns. It's a cross column made out of 2 I sections, these 2. So the cantilever effect was part of the design here, everywhere. And B.L. Manjunath, he's a very well-known structural engineer based out of Bangalore, an architect's favorite. And he helped us out with this project. So all these are cantilevered beams here. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
There is one question in the chat box that why did you use a full size door? Was it to avoid a break in the ceiling?
Yeah, see the full size doors, for example, I mean, like this or this, these ceilings are not very high. So what it does it bounces off the light. I mean, a lot of my learning has come from the SEPT, being in the SEPT campus. So, some of the ideas which really work well and enhance the space. I mean, why would you not use them? You've, lived in and day out with them. So, but let's say if it was a double height, what would you do then? Uh, if the Corbusier built a 4 or 5 story door for assembly building, right? Which
Yeah.
assembly building, you've seen that. It's a monumental door, right? If an architect has to do it, he has to do it. Though it's a more a poetic door, it's a symbolic door, but for the symbolism, you would take that. But say you wouldn't do that for a house unless there is absolutely crazy client and you who says that I want a facade, removable facade, and then maybe you would do something like that. If he has the resources and the mindset to do that, one would do that. One would always want to push limits because what it does is it expresses the elemental volume. I mean, the volume nature of the building. Yeah? When you have this full height kind of a door, and makes the smaller spaces look bigger, which is of course tried out. Like for example, in my living room, I have, oh, yeah, in my own living room, it's only 9.5 feet, but the perception is that it's about 11 or 12 feet high. So, yeah, that's the advantage also, that you can make smaller spaces look bigger. But it's not like you can't introduce a lintel. Please introduce a lintel, and just, I mean, it's about doing what you are intending to do. For example, here in Shabnam's house, though it's a, she said no contemporariness, but still I managed to convince her that we must have these large doors opening out to the garden because she has these satsangs inside, outside, use of landscape. So this part is pretty contemporary in that sense. Yeah?
Right, yeah.
Yeah, so the heavy showcase is here. See, somebody was asking,
Yeah.
and so is the upper one. So here it's like a scoop into the volume. Any other
Yeah.
questions?
I guess we are done with questions. Yeah, ma'am. So I guess it was quite successful. The walkthrough went quite smooth and it was quite successful.
All right. Thank you so much. I had fun revisiting my space with a new sort of a lens. It's always interesting. It kind of gives you new ideas about how things could have been or how they can be. So thank you for
It
that.
is quite interesting to see the use of materials that you have used. Like many of us are doing a working drawing studio right now. So
Yeah,
we could actually relate the things that you have used and the discussions we have with our faculties.